Dane and Sara here from Extra Credit Design Club. Today, we're doing part 3 of our series on the psychology of color. We're going to talk about pink.
Like you mentioned, this is part 3 of this series. If you missed part 1, which was on primary colors, and part 2, which was on secondary colors, we'll link them right here so that you can go back and watch them. But we are going to devote this whole video to pink because it is complicated.
In today's culture, we look at pink as feminine, girly, and vivacious. It's used across consumer products for women and girls, as a visual clarion call for women's rights, and also sometimes just to stand out to show how rebellious and different that you are.
On the most basic level, pink is a combination of red and white, red meaning passion and white meaning purity. So when you put the two together, you get pink, which symbolizes affection and tenderness. These are themes that we will see throughout the history of pink.
We are going to investigate how pink has become a very gendered color today.
Because it sure didn't start out that way.
In the Middle Ages, throughout the 13th and 14th centuries, like we discussed in our video on primary colors, red was often used as a symbol of royalty and power. But pink was used to paint skin tones and was commonly used to depict Christ, who was often depicted wearing pink.
What about the 15th through the 17th centuries? We just kind of breeze right over them. Does it matter?
Doesn't matter.
Beginning in the 18th century, pastel colors became very fashionable, and pink became a staple in European fashion. It is believed that this was spearheaded by Madame de Pompadour. She was Louis XV's mistress.
Louis XV's mistress!
And she had a large influence over fashion and the arts while she was living at Versailles. She even had the Sèvres porcelain factory make a special tint of pink that was just for her. And her name even sounds like it should be written in pink. Madame de Pompadour.
Madame de Pompadour. Additionally, paintings from the 18th and 19th centuries often depict children wearing pink. It was common for children to wear lighter colors, as the clothing was not dyed chemically. So any of the natural dyes and colorants would fade away when the clothes were washed in hot water.
And I'm sure that the reason that they were washed in hot water is because kids are disgusting. Yeah?
That's right. Pink was primarily worn by boys to mimic the red of the British Army. Girls were more likely to be seen wearing blue and white. These colors, however, were not considered gendered until the mid-1900s.
In the early 1900s, pink and blue were considered to be baby colors, but they weren't gendered one way or the other. In the 1950s, one of the largest icons to cause the shift in feminizing the color pink was First Lady Mamie Eisenhower. She wore a pink dress to her husband's inauguration, and then she decorated the White House so much so that people called it the Pink Palace.
Pink Palace, band name.
Her commitment to the color coined the shade Mamie Pink, which was then in every bathroom, every kitchen in the 1950s. It became a huge home trend. We're talking pink tiles, pink tubs, pink sinks, pink rugs. Jane Mansfield even had an entire pink shag bathroom. Insane.
You could just dry yourself off on the wall.
Can you imagine? Like just rolling around.
Anyways.
Okay, sorry. Although pink was not yet considered a feminine color, Mamie Eisenhower's frequent use of the color and her affiliation of being a housewife after the war quickly brought pink to represent femininity and
domestic housewifeness.
Yes. There's no doubt that since then the color has been portrayed as female, but not always in the most positive light. And if you don't believe me, you should try bringing a pink hammer to a construction site. That's what happened to Rory Gilmore, and it was not a good experience for her.
Not a good look.
And pop culture has reinforced that stereotype of pink being associated with inexperience or solely being concerned about your looks. We see that with Barbies, we see it in Legally Blonde, we see it with Disney princesses to a certain extent, and we see it in Mean Girls.
This portrayal of the color pink has been used to emasculate and weaken men.
Poor guys.
The first example of this, and this one is crazy, is coming from Arizona. Longtime Maricopa County Sheriff Joe Arpaio is infamous for his controversial, and in my opinion, super dehumanizing outdoor prison called Tent City. It started in the early 90s as a temporary overflow for Phoenix's overcrowded prisons. But it ended up lasting way longer than it should have, all the way until 2017. Sheriff Joe seemed to relish in the controversy and attention from this prison. He could often be found bragging that the temperatures in the tents often soared to 140 degrees in the brutal Arizona summer.
Is that the place where they made like the prisoners dress in pink?
Why, yes! Why am I bringing this up?
Oh, sorry.
Because in addition to the dehumanizing living conditions, prisoners were forced to wear pink underwear, pink sandals, and use pink towels to dry off. This was intended to embarrass them and strip them of their roughness.
Which just shows how feminized that color had become.
True. But I don't think it worked for this guy. Pretty sure he's flipping the bird to Sheriff Joy right there.
But the color pink isn't always equated with powerlessness. Let's go back to that definition of pink being a combination of passion and purity. In the 1990s, a breast cancer survivor, Charlotte Haley, started making and selling these peach ribbons that she would distribute in her town. They had a note attached to them saying that the National Cancer Institute wasn't doing enough to fund cancer prevention. Estee Lauder and Self magazine got wind of this story and they were like, we want to sell your ribbons. And they were like, we don't know about peach though, we think we should do pink. Focus groups have found is a more comforting, soothing color.
So these focus groups that decided upon the color pink were likely influenced by major research that happened in the 1970s and 1980s around the color pink. The studies were led by Alexander Schoss. In his early studies, he was researching whether color could cause hormonal changes. In one initial study, he had participants stare at an 18 by 24 poster of a color. While they stared at the color, they stretched out their arms to the side. He would have the participants try to hold their arms up while someone else tried to push their arms down.
Would you like to demonstrate?
I don't think they made that noise while they were doing it.
Maybe they did. You don't know. You weren't there.
When using a certain shade of pink, he found that the participants in the study had a harder time resisting their arms being pushed down.
It made them weaker.
It was almost as if looking at the color pink made them physiologically weaker. But when he then showed them the color blue and had them repeat the task, their strength returned and they could resist. Then, he somehow convinced 2 Naval Correctional Institute directors to paint a holding cell in their prison pink. The naval directors' names were Baker and Miller. He wanted to see if this same color of pink impacted the prisoners' behavior. And I have here an official quote from the findings of the study. Since the initiation of this procedure on the 1st of March, 1979, there have been no incidents of erratic or hostile behavior during the initial phase of confinement. And it was even shown that as little as 15 minutes of time in this room was enough to eliminate erratic and hostile behavior. As a result of these findings, other jails and detention centers added to the experiment. At a youth detention center in Canada, when there was an aggravated or violent inmate, they would just plop them into the pink room for 20 minutes. Kids that were previously impossible to calm down and would hit and scream, when they were placed in this room, in a matter of minutes, they went from erratic to sitting to oftentimes laying down and looking at the ceiling. This phenomena even spread to sports. Hayden Fry, looking here like everybody's dad. He was a former psychology student, but he got hired as the head coach of Iowa State's football team. And do you know what he did? He promptly painted the opposing team's locker room pink. Obviously, this was intended to mess with the players' heads and give them a sense of insecurity and weakness before they went up against his team, giving the Iowa team an even stronger home field advantage. This shade of pink is such an effective mood regulator that too much of it can actually be overwhelming and even agitating. In jails that implemented the pink rooms, they set rules where someone couldn't be kept in them longer than 15 or 20 minutes, or else they would go crazy. So
we've discussed a lot about the psychology of the color pink. How does this affect us as designers? How can we use it? Well, some of the cliches in society that are tied to the color pink can actually be used in our design effectively. Pink's softening nature can help a corporate or really boring design can become soft and a little bit lighter. Pink breaks up the monotony of starkness and brings something youthful and playful.
And energetic.
I mean, this is the very premise of Legally Blonde, right? You take Reese Witherspoon, you dress her up in pink, and you stick her in Harvard Law School. Playfulness ensues.
So much playfulness.
Pink is either a bold color that demands attention or a soft color that puts your mind at ease.
Ah.
Thank you. But we were not kidding. Pink is way more complex than you thought, right? So it's important that we continue to have these discussions about what color can mean psychologically, especially as designers who are using color to manipulate people into purchasing things, participating in things, etc., etc.
Or calming people the heck down. All I know is that I had a terrifying pink shirt when I was emo circa 2005.
That is a terrifying shirt.
So I've done my part.
I used to have pink hair, not once, not twice, but thrice. Well, that does it for us. Thank you so much for joining us today. We hope that if you like this, you will subscribe. Again, I'm Sarah. This is Dane. We are from Extra Credit Design Club, and we will see you next week. I feel very matronly today.